How y'all doing? This is another episode of WTF Talks with Dave and Hannah. Today we're going to talk a little bit about real things. I made a post last week about my mental health, and it's been weird. I've never had I don't think I've ever had a post with that many likes or comments or responses, and that surprised me a little bit. And so we thought we'd just take a few minutes today to talk about mental health in the workplace and mental health at home, and what's working for us and what might work for you. And so it's a bit of a deep topic today. So hang on, it's going to be a good ride, but welcome to another episode of WTF Talks.
Welcome, welcome. Tell me a little bit about what brought you to the place where you wanted to post the LinkedIn post in the first place. Like, how did that come together? How was it written? How were you feeling when you wrote it? How are you feeling when you posted it? How are you
Sure.
feeling now with kind of like the response that's come back from it? Tell me a little bit about that.
Sure. I was in a really good place when I posted it, and I certainly wasn't looking for sympathy. I was looking to share my experience and um, just let people know that we all go through it. We all go through
Mm-hmm.
dark days, and we all have troubles. And I'm not even saying those. Yeah, those days were pretty dark, but like not suicidal dark, but just kind of like some days of desperation and overwhelming sadness or whatever. And I'd never been through that my whole life before. And honestly, at times in my life, I've thought people that go through that are weak, and I don't think I'm weak. And so I felt bad that I had perceptions of people like that, and was wrong. And I just kind of wanted to say, hey, this is my story. And if you have one, um, sharing is caring. No, but like,
But it
I
is. It
wanted to
it
share
truly
my
is.
story so that other people feel okay having their experience. They don't have to share it, but sometimes it's a very lonely place. Sometimes
Mm,
life is a very lonely place, even for the most social and engaged people that you know. And
mhm.
so that's why I wanted to share.
That's really interesting. I think that one of the things that social media has taught us is that no one is having a unique experience. As much as we all would like to be individuals in our very own specific, unique selves, we are all experiencing things that every single human is experiencing all of the time. And that while we do still have very different experiences from one another around us, and like what you said, you didn't know what you didn't know until you knew it. You didn't know what it was going to be like. You didn't know what that was for a person until you were experiencing it yourself. So many people are experiencing these things. And so I think it's really powerful that you are going to share it and that you are talking about it, because I think that so often, specifically people from your seat. Like in the workplace, it's challenging enough to talk about it. We've had people in our company who talk about like no crying and staffing. And it's like, no, no, no. Like yes, there are emotions here. Like this is actually one of the most uh, emotionally driving experiences being in staffing, because you're covering so many different careers. Like you are literally touching any and every job that is out there. And so if you think about any and every job that's out there and the emotions that come from that, like you are funneling so much of that through to yourself. And that's not to discredit people who are first responders and different things like that. That's so different. That's so outside of our wheelhouse. And I
Yeah, much
spent
more so.
I spent a week or a couple I spent 4 days with a nurse or a house full of nurses. There was 10 nurses in that house. And I let me tell you, I don't know how they do what they do every day. Like I quite literally could never be that strong in that way.
Right.
But you do still, despite all of that, get the emotional outcome that comes from all of those roles and all of those things. And so it's so much to kind of be the dam at the end that's holding all of the water back. So tell
Yeah.
me what it was like to transition from a place where you were perhaps in a older mentality of we don't cry at work, we don't cry in staffing, your emotions are at home, your productivity is here, and what that transition was like into the place where you were comfortable to be so vulnerable about what you were experiencing. How did that happen?
Well, I think it started actually a couple of years ago, not long after you started with us, and um, I got onto this kick about bringing your fullness every day, and that your fullness ebbs and flows every day. And what our expectation, what we believe is integrity at Better Together Group is that you give your all every day. But we also respect and understand that your all isn't the same every day. Um, and that's not licensed to not show up. It's an understanding that because we're better together, we're going to fill each other's gaps. But the only way we can fill each other's gaps if we know and we talk about it and we're a little bit more open. And so that's kind of one of the things we've been trying to build into our culture. And I don't think we're all the way there, but I think that we're doing better at it. I think that there's a balance to it. I think for a time we got to a spot where everything was touchy feely and people weren't hitting their numbers and there wasn't great accountability in place. And I take responsibility for that. I'm an on and off switch typically. I'm on and we're like holding people accountable daily to the numbers all the time, or I'm off and I'm um, a counselor and not a business owner, and that doesn't work in business. And so, 20 years in business, I'm still figuring this thing out.
So how do you ride the middle? What's it like to be in the middle? Is that where you
I
feel
don't
like
know
you are
yet.
now? Oh,
I think we're still figuring it out, and they say that the middle is messy, and we're trying to balance it. I think that I think business owners typically are very results oriented, very driven people. That would be certainly true of who I am, but um, I'm also I also try to bring my faith to work every day, and I try to live out who I am as a person, and that involves loving people. I say you can't come work for us if you don't genuinely love people. Like if you
mm.
don't really care about people, you shouldn't work in a staffing agency. Okay, we help people feed their
Retweet.
families every day, and so if that doesn't mean something to you, if it doesn't bug you when you don't get someone a job, or when your candidate doesn't get a job, that's a problem, and you need to be passionate about what you're doing. For us, we've seen it time and time again. If they're not passionate, um, it's hard for them to stay long term and to achieve what they need in life. And so
Mhm.
it becomes a two-edged sword. If you're not super passionate, you don't do well. If you don't do well, you don't make enough to keep doing it. And
So then, how does passion and emotion play a role together? Because we talk about obviously the three I's all the time, like intentionality, intensity, and integrity. But if you think about passion and you think about intensity, if you're bringing your most intense passion to work at your fullest every single day, how does that correlate with emotions in the workplace? And how do you find and figure out the appropriate places? Like pretend that I'm somebody who's coming in from a really toxic work environment and I've never been told that I can have an emotion or experience an situation for what it truly is, but that it's just like head down workhorse. How do you start to allow yourself those moments to process what's happening in an appropriate place? And how do you hold yourself together in a not so appropriate place? And how do you figure out what that looks like and where that is? Like, what has that journey been for you?
yeah, well, and that was kind of the initiating incident for the post was 2 years ago at a golf tournament, at an industry golf tournament where I was someone's guest. Um, I was with a group of people that I didn't really know, and I broke down in tears. And just kind of overwhelmed with my life at the moment. And um, within 6 minutes of just kind of trying to steal it and hold it together, I just said to guys, I said, excuse me, I'm sorry, guys. I've got something going on personally and I need to excuse myself. And I walked off the course screaming with tears down my face. I don't know if it was like right in front of the guys that I was streaming, but certainly my eyes would have been red and all the symptoms of like my emotion was on my face.
Yeah.
And it wasn't appropriate for me to be that much of a wreck in that environment. And so I had to remove myself for their benefit, to be
Yeah.
kind to them. Who wants to ride around in a golf cart with a guy who's like, wanting to jump off a cliff or wanting to, just weep or just like really somber. That's not what those events are for. And so I just need to excuse myself, and I did. I think
Mhm.
that we all need to know when we're sick, and emotional unhealth is, you might need an emotional sick day and just say, you know what, today, guys, I can't be here. And it's just like if you were throwing up, you wouldn't have any problem calling in sick. But if you're like, in a ball on the floor, call in sick.
Okay, so I'm gonna personally struggle with that one a little bit because my father told me if I wasn't broken, if I wasn't bleeding, and I wasn't barfing, I'd be going to school. And so that like there is a lot of like wiring that I have inside of me that's like, okay, I'm a productive horse, and like unless I'm like I and physically on the ground in a ball is the right term and description of that. And not that I haven't gotten to that place emotionally before, I most certainly have. But giving myself like how, and this can just be for me, not for anybody else, but like how do I give myself the freedom to allow that to be an illness worth addressing? Because
Sure.
I really struggle with that. Like I
So
struggle with taking the time and separating it from I'm physically sick right now. People can probably hear that I sound like insane. I'm very nasally, but like I I still can't stop working. So I don't I truly don't know how you work through that. How do you allow yourself the space to step away and deal with what you have to deal with?
I appreciate the question. And let me just say, with all due respect to your dad, he was wrong. And I say that, you know, with knowing him and respecting him and being him. But
Well,
the
you are not who you were 20 years ago. Like you truly have changed in the
yeah,
last 2 decades. There's no way that you're the same.
hopefully
Um,
we all have. The things that I know now that I didn't know then, the things that I knew then that I don't know now. People often say as you age, if I'd only known then what I know now.
yeah.
And what I find is really true of me is the things that I knew and was confident about in my 20s and 30s and early 40s, I don't I'm not confident of, and I don't know them anymore.
Hmm.
And like there's lots of things about business strategy and business management and leadership, and um, the way things have always been done is not the way things should always be done.
Hmm.
Um, there are some things in life that are still guiding lights for me. I don't want to like make any, I don't want to make that too broad of a statement. Certainly my faith and, the things that guide my life are the same. Um, but I look at them much more gracefully than I did in my 20s and 30s and 40s. As it relates to, I think it's a great principle to teach your kids that you go to work no matter what,
Well,
and then that their
it
bosses,
is.
that they're hopefully their bosses are like, dude, you're sick, go home. Like that
Yeah.
that should be the tension, is that when your employer sees you, they're not looking at you like, well, what can I get out of them today? But they actually care, and they're
Yeah.
like, you know what, this isn't the safest or best place for you today, and so please feel free to step off.
Yeah. And maybe that's exactly what you were going for as parents too, to be able to be like, you're very ill. Like, let's keep you home just because you're not one of these three things. But as a parent of three with a job and a life and the desire to continue doing stuff, I mean, I get to see how often parents are calling out sick for their kids who are sick now. So I can most certainly appreciate the let's drill this down so that they keep that mindset. And then when they're ill, we can pull them. And then that can be your decision
Right.
making. But it
But
is
the
like,
other thing that we always
it's an
said is if
interesting
you're
wiring.
the other thing that we always said was if you don't feel well, get up, take a shower, and after you go through the motions of getting yourself ready for the morning, you'll know if you're ready to go or not.
Yeah, see, but my problem is like that productivity horse comes back in, and I'm like, well, I've spent 30 minutes getting ready. Like, this literally happened this morning. I woke up and was not pleasant. And I was like, I'm gonna get ready. And then once I'm ready, I'll know whether or not I can work. Well, then I was ready. So I wasn't gonna wipe my face off and get back in bed. Like, are you kidding me? Like, a coffee can do almost anything for an illness. And a bunch
No,
of
no,
extra
it
strength
can't. No, it
Tylenol.
can't. When you're really sick to that state, um, the shower and getting ready is like, oh man, I don't have anything left. It took everything out of me. In
That's
my in my opinion.
That's true. That's fair. On a Friday or something, I took a shower and nearly laid down in the middle of it, like in a ball. Like, I can't. I have to get up
Right.
and towel myself off. Like, I have to dry myself coming out of this. Are you
How do
kidding
I
me?
have the energy to do that?
So okay, so
So
it,
yeah,
it,
I
it
think
comes it
I
comes back to the energy and how much it's really stealing from you in those moments.
right, right.
Like
So
the
you
you'll
have to be a
you'll know
guided
when
man.
you know.
Yeah. So, but yeah, I think that it's really important that that employers make pathways for employees to communicate that they're sick and that they be comfortable in relationship enough that the employees are willing to give. They don't have to give, but they're willing to give kind of a sense of, I think I'll be good tomorrow, or let me check again at noon. Maybe I can come in at noon. We're largely in a work from home environment, really exclusively in a work from home environment at this point. Um, and we're I think that that's one of the hard parts is because the employer's always going, what are they really doing? Like, it's Friday and they're calling off. And Fridays are a bad day to call off. Mondays are a bad day to call off. That's not wrong, not wrong, but you should have such a relationship with your employer that they're like never concerned about it. Just like you are a workforce, Hannah. And so if you call in sick, I'm like, okay, she's sick. I've had other employees in the past, um, and consistent Fridays off.
Hmm.
Oh, that's a problem.
Pattern.
Pattern,
Sure.
yes. It's not like every week. They're not like super obvious, but like if you look at their pattern of attendance, wow, that's interesting. They took 8 sick days this year, and 5 of them were on Fridays.
Sure.
That's a concern.
Sure. Yeah, that makes sense. That makes sense. And because we could get way too into that and steered off of our topic of
Thank you.
mental health. So what are you doing to set yourself up for success in the future, kind of coming out of this? Now you had an understanding. You didn't really know what you didn't know, and then you were like, "Ooh, this is a new thing. I'm now experiencing it. I'm now going through it. I'm now giving myself the space to do what needs to be done and the autonomy to discuss it publicly so that it's not this deep-rooted secret." Do you think that I want to get to my other question after, but do you think that that's been really beneficial? Just kind of like letting the cat out of the bag and being like, yeah, look, this is something that like I've been dealing with and like it's just a thing that I'm working through. Or was it easier when it was just you that knew?
It was probably easier when just I knew,
Okay.
but it contributed to how I felt. I'm a very open and transparent person, and so it was hard to bear that and not share it because that's who I am. I'm super transparent. I'm too transparent. Let's be honest. People know stuff about me they shouldn't know. That's
Sure.
just the reality of it. Um, but I'm comfortable in that discomfort. And I'm so convinced that um, the truth part of the WTF is important that I'm an oversharer. Um, so, but yeah, I think that for me, it's just important to be genuine about who I am.
Mm, okay. So now what is the what's the next thing? What are you doing to, because we talk all the time about setting yourself up for success. So what do you do to
Sure.
set yourself up for success with this new understanding? And I don't want to use the word diagnosis because I don't think that that's something that
Sure.
you've actually gone through, but
No,
is the only title that I can come to, like self-diagnosis.
sure. Well, no, like I did go see my doctor, and she prescribed me some meds, which helped. I'm not afraid to say that. I think that it's medicines to help you heal. And
Yeah.
so I would say that that's one of the things that 15 years ago I didn't really understand. And, I thought that there was, you know, that only the weak people took medicine for mental health. And that's wrong. That's a wrong thought. And that was wrong of me to think that. And, um, and I'm ashamed that I thought that.
Mm.
Um, the other thing that I'm doing is, um, I've had 3 or 4 different counselors that I've been working with.
Okay.
And I've fired a few of them. I don't think that would surprise anyone that knows me.
You
The
have to
first,
find the right fit.
yeah, the first counselor I met with was the very stereotype of every psychologist, counselor person that you've ever, seen in a bad movie. It's like he sat cross-legged, barefoot in front of me with um, with flip-flops on the floor um, to
I am
have the first
doing that right
conversation.
now, just
You
so
and
people know.
and that's fine, okay? But it's not what I wanted in a professional counseling environment. I didn't want that hippy dippy. Like the
Yeah,
only thing that wasn't going, they weren't burning incense in the office, and
sure.
so like in my conservative view and my conservative life, that wasn't a fit for me.
Sure.
Um, and then his counsel was to me literally 2 years ago, just about now, maybe in another 2 or 3 weeks, I met with him, and he said, "Well, Dave, your life is a wreck. You should feel like this." And I was like, "I think I want to punch you in the face." Um, and then like handed me a textbook and said, "Go home and read this." And I was like,
Oh, you're not
um,
gonna work for me.
"Yeah, yeah, I'm gonna need a more involved engagement than that." Um, so
I
then
feel
the
like I
second
can.
person I saw was so it took me more than a year to get the courage to go back and see someone else. And that guy was really good. And I told him the story about the first guy, and I used the word hippy dippy to describe the first counselor. He goes, "Oh, that's really interesting. I, I was part of the hippie movement." He said, "But I'm not going to do that to you today." And he was really caring, and he heard my story and talked me through. Let me talk through some of what was weighing on me, and he was like, he gave hope. He gave
Mm,
hope. Like when people are drowning, um, putting your foot on their head's not kind, and that's what the first guy did to me.
I think it sounds to me like he was trying to validate what you were experiencing, but it just wasn't what you needed.
Well,
Like
the way I received it was he put his foot on my head and shoved me another foot down.
right.
So the second guy gave me understanding and hope that you don't life doesn't have to be like this.
Yeah.
Um, and and that was really good. And he gave me time to process and followed up with me and showed a level of care for me. Um, he texted with me and just like one-to-one engagement super important to me. And then I didn't stay with that guy. Um, and just more recently, I've gotten involved with this group that's talking to me about emotional intelligence and emotional blueprinting and kind of how to work through some of your emotions and some of your hurts in life and some other things. And so while there's still lots of stress and there's lots of things that I'm doing, and I'm the invention of all of the stress in my life. Like at this point, um, like one of the biggest, not biggest pieces, but one of the darkest times for me was leading up to your wedding.
Yep.
Was I had a plan, and Grayson was part of the plan. I always expected you were going to get married. I don't want it to sound like that, but I was losing control of my plan, and my plan was there's going to be a new person in your life that influenced you greater than I was going to influence you, and I don't know if I'd really ever processed that before the moment. Um, and so I was so happy to invite Grayson into our family, and I'm so excited for what he adds to our family. And he's amazing, and I'm really happy to see you happily married. Um, but there was kind of oh, frick, this changes things.
Yeah. Yeah, there was. I didn't think that that's what it was in regards to. I thought it was about Papa.
Well, Papa was a big part of it too. So at the same time, I recognized that I was losing my dad. And so my dad wasn't able to come to your wedding because he wasn't healthy enough to do so. And so I had a bunch of business turmoil. We had, you know, three leadership changes in our management team in a like 9 month period. And that was
Oh,
difficult. In
no.
like in the people that worked for the ownership group, our management
Our
level.
executive team, I suppose that's true.
Yeah.
Our executive team. If we
And
count
so like,
our admin or our finance offices, pardon
yeah.
me.
So, you know, so that was kind of a challenge. And then the recognition I was losing my dad. Um, and mom said to me really interestingly, um, I went through the exact same process when I lost my mom. So 14 years ago, I lost my mom. She was significantly sick in the year leading up to her passing. Then she passed. I grieved for another year. And on the day of her passing, uh, after the year, I was like, I'm done. And with my dad, a year after his passing, I'm like, I'm done. I don't, there's a switch that goes off for me. It's like, okay, I don't allow any more of this grief. And it's not that I'm not still feeling it, but it's just like it can't get in the way. And so um,
So
that's a weirdness about me. I don't think that's right. I don't think that's wrong. I think it's just me.
I would encourage you to continue. I think that that might be, I'm sorry to call you out
Oh, dude.
in the middle of this, but I think that that might be a bad habit that you're trying to carry forward. That you recognize that you did that and were able to do that the first time, and that you might be trying to force yourself to do the same. Is it that or
No,
no?
no,
No. Okay, great.
no.
I'm so glad. I
It's
just
literally there's a permission that I give myself, not intentionally, not, but just kind of like, okay, that season's over. And for whatever reason, I'm programmed, and I'm probably the only person like this in my family. I'm programmed that 365 days is enough time to do that. Um, and there's been yeah, so it's just been an interesting process. And I don't recommend it. I don't think that it's healthy or unhealthy. I just think it's me.
okay. I would encourage you to continue to allow yourself the freedom to feel the grief that comes post 365, no matter how
Yeah.
intense it is, regardless of if it's
Yes. Yeah. And that's, thank you. I appreciate you saying that. And I would say that that's still there, but I just don't have the sadness anymore. My dad's in a better place. My dad's in
mm,
heaven with his wife and with his parents and um, realizing the goals of his whole life to hear, well done, good and faithful servant, and to stand before his king and his master.
mm, yeah. Okay, so give us all, and we'll wrap it off because we're getting long here. Um, give us all kind of like some tips going through it. How did you get through it? And then tips coming out of it was the best thing that you've done. Kind of like, how did you continue to show up and do the job that you had to do to pay the bills that you had to do? Because it was 2 years. Like people can take a hiatus, people can step away, people can remove themselves for specific periods of time, but for multiple years, that's not necessarily reasonable or feasible for
Yeah,
anybody. And so how did you do that? And then kind of on the flip side of it, coming out of it and having a more tangible grasp on it, what's something that you would do moving forward that you think will continue to benefit you as you keep going?
sure. So if I can start in reverse order, the
Sure.
thing that I will do going forward is continue to talk about it.
Okay.
Because if you don't talk about it, I think that's how you get yourself under a weight that is unmanageable.
Sure.
Um, the it is easier when you share it, um, and I'm still figuring out who to share it with and how broadly, but um,
A lot of
this is
people today.
hopefully. I think that um, the other thing that I would say is um, take some time to be alone, but not too alone.
Mm,
So, don't be afraid to take an hour or two or a half a day, but don't take a week. Don't don't isolate yourself. Certainly not if you're my personality. Like I'm a people person. I don't want to be alone
never.
almost ever. Um, and I think the whole world is happy that there's not phones in showers. Because when I'm alone in a car, I call people. Doesn't matter what time of day, and it doesn't matter how much time they have to talk.
Yep.
Um,
Yep.
so
I'm aware. If you're
so like
sitting if
I
you're
said
sitting on the
I
road
said in
hearing
the
road
post
noise.
I said in the post on LinkedIn, transparency is important to grow and get better. I believe that transparency is a gift for others. Um, Weeping isn't for wimps. Okay. No matter what your dad told you, there is crying in staffing, and there is crying in life. And I'm a super emotive guy, so I don't think it's shocking to anyone that I'm both up and down sometimes. Not manic, but just highs and
In-
lows.
Intense regardless of where you sit.
Regardless of where I stand. Thank you. Um, Time doesn't heal all things. Oh, this is one that I really like. Um, Time doesn't heal all things, but emotions are a better caboose than an engine in life.
What do you mean
Emotions,
by that?
I think there's a lot of people that are led by their emotions. Their emotions determine their decisions, that emotions are the thing that they follow.
Mm,
And that is a massive jeopardy because your emotions lie to you. Your emotions tell you things that aren't true in the moment. Emotions will tell you that you're not loved when you are. Emotions will tell you that you're alone when you're not. Emotions
mm,
will tell you that you aren't worthy when you are worthy of respect and care and love.
mm.
Um, and so emotions make a lousy engine. They shouldn't be at the front of the train. They should be at the back of the train. They should be following you along, and they're certainly influencing and a part of your train. But they don't tell you what to do. You don't make decisions because you're mad. You don't make decisions when you're mad.
I
You
like
make
that.
Yeah.
I like that a lot. I like that a lot. I've been doing something recently because well, this one is a little bit more based on well, this episode is a little bit more based on depression. We could do a whole other one on anxiety and the intrusive thoughts that come through. But I heard something recently that talked about like your ego is not your amigo. Just because you thought that they should have done this in this type of way because that's what you wanted doesn't mean that they knew that that's what you wanted, nor it was their place to actually do it that way. So like in those specific instances, like say for example, this weekend I was going for coffee with a couple of girlfriends, and one of my girlfriends had to stay back so she could study for her master's program. Like one of those bad intrusive thoughts, anxiety inducing thoughts could be like, oh my gosh, she doesn't love me, she hates me, blah, blah, blah. I'm like, no girl, your ego is not your amigo. Like she doesn't care about you. She's not even thinking about you at all. She's thinking about her own crap. She's got to do her own stuff. Like
And rightfully so,
100% rightfully
right?
so. But that little comment has been really helpful to me, and I think it kind of ties into that for you.
Sure. And we should do another episode on anxiety and how that's been a factor for
Yeah.
you. Because
Let us
people
know
think
below if you
perceive
want
you
to
to be
hear.
super confident all the time. Um,
What else? What was the rest of it? Sorry to interrupt.
Teamwork is the dream work. I couldn't have done it without my family and the BTG team. And then serving others, not being served, was the way through the pain.
Tell me
So,
about that. We'll wrap it up.
um, I spent a lot of time in service in the church and my community over the course of my life. And in the last 5 years, I haven't had as much opportunity to do that for a variety of reasons. And I've been fortunate in the last 12 months, 24 months to get some opportunities to do that. And I just find that when I'm others focused, I'm not me focused. And being
Mm,
others focused helps me um, rightly order my priorities in life.
sure.
Um, this life is not all about me. I I don't believe in YOLO. Um, that's not my thing. I live for others and to serve them and to care for them. It goes back to the Zig Ziglar thing I've got in my LinkedIn profile. You get everything you want out of life if you serve enough other people and help them get their dreams. And
Mm,
that's what I'm about as a person. I believe that.
well, I think that's a great way to cap it. If do you want to invite people to discuss this with you? Like, are you happy for people to reach out and be like,
Yeah,
hey, Dave, like this is something I've worked on. Thank you so much for sharing.
yeah, absolutely. I'm happy to connect with people. If you want to reach out to me, Dave at bettertogethergroup.com is the easiest and simplest way to reach me. Um, and I will reach back to you within 24 hours. And if I don't, send me another email.
Yeah, absolutely. It might just get lost in the mix, but I think that you sharing your story and being so transparent about it will serve other people and will give them perhaps even just the blessing to feel their emotions the way that they need to be felt rather
Yeah,
than continue to suppress them in ways that we all do at different points in time. So thank you for
right.
for being so transparent and vulnerable about it. I appreciate that.
Thanks for the opportunity. I really want this to be a catalyst to conversation. This is not about Dave. It's not about feel bad for me. It's about celebrating with me that I'm through a difficult patch and opening up the opportunity to serve others by knowing that even guys like me go through difficult patches. So
Mhm.
uh,
Absolutely.
reach out.
Thank you very much. And feel what you gotta feel. Don't suppress. Work through the emotions. Talk to somebody. Give yourself the space, but don't be alone. There's a nice little synopsis to the conversation. But
There you go.
thank you so much. Thank you for listening, and we will talk to y'all next time. Bye for now.
Y'all.